What is up, everyone, and welcome to episode 57 of the Trainer Scoop podcast. In today's episode, it's a first because I have a repeat guest, Brandon Ebert. You're my first repeat guest, bro. Say what's up to the people.
What's up? I can't believe that of all the people that you've interviewed so far, I'm the first one that's been a repeat on the show. That's a nice little factoid you got there for me, because I honestly had no idea that you hadn't repeated anyone else. And the fact that I'm not even like a trainer or like a graduate from school or anything, and that I'm the repeat guest, I don't know. There must be something about me. Either I just stick around you too much or something. I don't know.
Dude, I'd say there's a lot about you, and we'll get into it this episode. For anyone listening to, like, literally, I was telling Brandon right as I started and admitted him into the room, they started weed whacking outside. So my hope is they're probably almost done with at least the area right out in front of my window. So sorry for the noise if that's a thing, but yeah, man, I think we did the last one, like, what was it, July or June of 2020, maybe August of 2020.
Yeah, was that pre? I can't even remember. Was that like pre-pandemic, or was that like right at the beginning? I don't know. It
Yeah,
was.
that would have been the first summer of COVID.
Okay.
Yeah, because I started it in February and then I didn't know what to do. You might have been like the first episode that I did with someone. I think you might have been the first episode that I did like with a guest after COVID, because originally I was just doing everything in person. Even with you, that summer we literally sat outside and did the fucking podcast. So like,
Yeah.
it's been a minute, man. Catch the people up
Yeah.
on what you've been up to.
Yeah. So I'm in my senior year now at OSU. One more semester after this one. No idea what's gonna be coming after that. The thought of being a full-grown adult is a pretty daunting thing, to say the least. It's exciting because I'm really excited to be done with school. After you're in school for, I don't know, way too long, you're excited the prospects of no longer having to go to classes 5 days a week for 30 plus weeks in the year. Definitely excited to be done with that, but honestly, no clue what the future holds for me. My major is film studies with a minor in video arts, and I have like a real focus in screenwriting. So my goal is looking into internships for the spring, because I have pretty much close to like all the credits that I need to graduate. It's more so just like some of those senior like seminar courses that are required. I'll have to fit that in the spring, and then hopefully just an internship somewhere, in the film industry. That's what I'm looking at in the short term. And then long term, again, looking to just get my foot in the door someplace in regard to that, and then just like try to work my way up through the industry. I mean, I don't know a lot about it, but I do know that it's like tough to break in. So hopefully once I get through that initial period of like breaking through, then it should be some good opportunities for me. So I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a cool time in life. And all I can say is just enjoy it, which it seems like you now have come a long way in terms of being able to do that versus, in the past, which we've all
Yeah.
been there. I've been there with you. So definitely enjoy that, dude, because it's a fun time in life.
Mm-hmm.
So give us like a high level, maybe like 2-3 things that were like big in life since that summer of 2020. Like, what were some staples that you did along the way?
Yeah, so the first thing that pops up is this May I went and studied abroad for a month in London, which was such a dope opportunity. Yeah.
Tell them about the gym and nightlife scene in London, because I
So
distinctly remember you telling me about some bars.
yeah, yeah.
We
So
had worked together during this time as well, for context.
yeah, yeah. So I'll set the gym scene first. If you're like an avid power lifter, like you'd have to be pretty dedicated, I suppose, to finding like a much better gym, because there weren't a lot of spots, at least where I was like staying at for the month, that would have been really easy for like setting up like if you were gonna sumo deadlift for like an hour and do like 6 to 8 sets or something and like work up to like RP like 9, whatever. I don't think that was like in the cars in a lot of the gyms that you were seeing, because most of it's like commercial gyms or like personal training studios, um, places that like the the powerlifting scene probably wouldn't be like set up for. But like bodybuilding wise, like it's not too difficult so long as you're willing to compromise a little bit here and there with like space. And obviously the weirdest thing that you have to get used to initially is the fact that like the weights are going to be in kilos. And it sounds like dumb on the surface, but like when you go and you're going to dumbbell bench and you go to grab, it's like you're in your head, you're expecting, oh, I'm grabbing like the 80-pound dumbbells, and if you thought you were gonna pick up 80-kilo dumbbells, which obviously weren't a thing, like good luck getting that up.
Good luck even finding those.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, no, but like I think it went up to like 50s or 55s in the gym, which is pretty good for kilos. So yeah, the gym scene was decent. I had a couple of options fairly close to where I was staying. The hours again are a little wonky too, because a lot of it's like the commercial style setup. But it wasn't too bad once you get into the groove of it. And then the nightlife scene, super highly dependent on like the vibe you're looking for. The first thing is just they're wildly more accepting of drinking from like a younger age, which is to be expected like when you go overseas, but it's a little jarring like when you're just walking like through like places and there's like pubs on every corner and people are just out drinking at any time of the day and everyone's drinking beer and stuff. And it can go from kids that look like they should still be in middle school all the way through like 60-year-olds. And then if you're going during the middle of the day or towards the evening and there's like a Chelsea game on, like whatever experience you have with like American football, like does like pales in comparison to what you would expect, like if a Chelsea or Liverpool or any one of those teams in the Premier League that are playing. It's crazy. They love their football, which is obviously soccer to us, but it's awesome. They were trying to make an American like barbecue restaurant in London, which they kind of missed the mark on a bit, but it was pretty funny. But one of the waitresses, as she was serving us, like we were taking she was taking our order, and she couldn't understand our dialect because her like British, and like I don't know if she was like native to like England or whatever, if she was from somewhere else, but she had like a really heavy British accent, and she like had to have us repeat like 3 or 4 times our orders because she couldn't like understand what we were saying, which was such a jarring thing. Because I feel
That's
like as a
funny.
IO kid, I'm just like I feel like I talk so plain. Like I feel like I'm just
Yeah.
the most boring person to listen to. So I don't know. It was really interesting.
Damn. That sounds like a cool trip, dude. Cool experience for sure. It was I mean, yeah, hats off to you for like still wanting to work out and train too, because like I don't know, a lot of people wouldn't have done that. Yeah, shout out Ryan Shaw. He didn't lift a damn weight the whole time he was in Europe over the past couple weeks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he
you know,
loved avoiding my question when I asked him. I was like, "Did you lift it all?" And he just totally slid right on past that question.
yeah, yep. We'll clip this and send it to him. Yeah, dude.
That's funny.
Well, definitely, man. Catching up in life sounds like things are going good. And it's okay to be a little uncertain at this time too, for you and everyone listening. That's like in a big transitional period, because it will work out. I have no doubt that it will. So, dude, talk to me about the fitness. What's been up? What are you training for? How's it been? Fill me
Mhm.
in.
Yeah, it's a great question. Because within the last few months, it's been kind of just like I don't know. I want to have fun with it. So I've just and David's been making my program, and he's been my coach for a good while now. And I think even at times he's probably like, what the hell is this kid doing? Like, what is his goals? Because like, frankly, I'm not hyper aware of what they are at all times. Because one day I'll text him and I'll be like, dude, we're bulking, I'm powerlifting, like, let's just do this. And then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, no, I think I want to cut and do bodybuilding. I think
That
I
was
want
a
to do
funny
both.
period.
Like, let's do a 5 day where 2 days I'm doing strength, 3 days let's do bodybuilding. um I think that comes with the territory though, of just like this whole point in your life being a bit uncertain, and then like the fitness goals just kind of slide right in, where it's like I know I want this to be something that stays a focal point of my life like throughout it, but it's like as times change, like I think my desires do too, and that coincides with my fitness journey. um so, and that, I think part of it has to do with just wanting to like keep things fresh, just so I don't like run into any burnout, which I haven't. I really love, working out and eating well. But right now, I've been in like a pretty slight deficit for since I got back from that trip in London. So since June to now, just like slowly dropping weight. But I think the way that I've done it's been pretty good, where it's like it's never been too dramatic. So I've never felt at any point like it was so difficult and strict to keep up with that I wasn't gonna like I was just gonna fall off and just like stop doing it, which is really important for me because I have like really bad habits of just like getting stuck in routines and like not being able to be flexible with it. And so this has allowed me some of that flexibility to keep things on track without feeling like a couple of days here or there, um, on a weekend, if I want to enjoy some time out with friends and have some drinks and like eat out or whatever, it doesn't feel as detrimental because I'm not like so dead set on like any certain number on the scale or anything along those lines, which is like a tough thing for me to do, because I've had like problems in the past with like getting really stuck with what I'm seeing on the scale, and that those things still occur for me to this day. Um, so I don't know. I think right now the ultimate goal would be at some point I think I will step on stage, or at least go through the process of what it would be like to step on stage. But I want to be confident in what I'm bringing, so I don't want to just do it just to do it. Like if I'm gonna pursue that, that's gonna be something that I take really serious. So hopefully I can spend the next few years like just continuing to add size slowly, and then like we can see after we get to a certain point like what it looks like when you strip it all down.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see what that looks like, but I think that's a little bit down the road, just after getting out of school and giving my body more time to just like continue to add size, because I know this is kind of the prime window for me, like age 21 through probably 25, 26, where I can like really continue adding size before it gets a lot more difficult to keep and put on muscle. So I don't want to do anything too dramatic and like stunt potential growth. So
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think the way you've been going about it is good. I don't know if I've ever vocalized it, but like, I mean, if we think about it, looking at your weight from the summer to now, we have some pretty good data. And I'd say like you were probably throughout the week, like just since the end of the summer and into, I mean, it's October now, which is crazy, but just like a very slight deficit, like you said, like very slight, probably like 250 calories tops deficit.
mhm.
And then during the weekends, like you said, you can kind of just do whatever and have fun, and it all equals out to the point where you're just like, keeping some shreds, keeping some slight aesthetics, looking good
Mhm.
on the Snapchat burner account, and and doing a good job of balancing it, which, as you mentioned, from your past was never a strong suit. So that's like a lot of good growth there, dude. And definitely happy
Mhm.
to see that and be a part of it in what ways I can. Can't take credit for it, but definitely been there to see it. Um, Let me see where I was going with that was how has your kind of like interests since, I mean, obviously maybe not since we've talked, because I don't even know if I can remember that far back, but how have they
Yeah.
recently shifted in terms of like what style of training you like to do, what movements you've enjoyed, highlight some of that, and like what has been cool for you to see in the gym lately.
Yeah, so I think like this winter especially, like really heavy compound movements were like super fun for me, and it was something that was keeping me going, especially during a time where I was like in a pretty decent surplus. And I think it felt necessary for me like at that time, like if I'm going to be eating all these calories, I want to be like putting them to good use and like putting on like real strength and like seeing like how strong I can get if I'm going to be actually like pushing weight a bit. And I think now that we're kind of I've swung back now to being a little bit lighter and leaner, It's just those high rep movements and not heavily draining myself through like really heavy compounds, because I think you just see diminishing returns after a certain point. Like if I was trying to deadlift and squat like really heavy all the time, like it probably just wouldn't work out well, because I wouldn't be able to recover very well, and that would make it really tough to train 6 times a week. So I was training only 4 or 5 times a week during the winter during that time, so I could really focus on strength goals. And like ever since I got back from London, so the beginning of summer, like training 6 times a week again, and just doing like that legs push. I was doing push legs pull, and then one of my friends was like, well, I think we should do legs on Mondays because that'll be better, because then we can work out together. I'm like, okay. So I'll just like, it's pretty easy to flip like when you're not super rigid, and like I have to deadlift on Tuesdays because I know I need to optimize my recovery. So when I deadlift again on Thursday or Friday, so this style of training where it's not really as heavily demanding, and any one exercise makes it a lot easier to be like, okay, I'll just do legs today and then flip it and do push another day. And that makes it fun too, because then you can train with a bunch of people. And I'm at a gym where the environment is really conducive to like being outgoing and like wanting to talk to new people. And sometimes that leads to guys being like, hey, we should do a workout together. And it's hard to be
Never girls, but guys for sure. Isn't that funny?
Man, do I wish it was not just the boys. But you know, the boys hype each other up, so it's kind of nice. Like today we had a huge group going. There's like 6 or 7 of us.
Jesus.
We're just going to town together. It's all the boys. We've got all the testosterone.
What do you do while the other like 4 guys, like what do the other 4 guys do when the one guy is
we're all just screaming at the one guy that's lifting to do it better. It's
getting
so
like a
funny.
circle jerk going or something.
Yeah, kind of. Well,
Okay.
then we'll do like a circuit too, where it's like, okay, 3 guys are on one machine and then 3 guys are on another, and then we'll flip. So it works itself out. But
3 guys, 1 machine. That's dope, dude. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I don't know.
That's a good squad. I don't even have 6 fucking friends, let alone 5 other people to work with. Like that's crazy. I've actually been training with a girl lately, personally, for once.
Oh, that's tough. That's real tough.
No, she's a beast.
Yeah.
It's kind of like did you ever see like Jared Feather, the dude from RP, training with Joe Sullivan's girlfriend?
No, I didn't.
They trained together in Vegas. And like honestly, I feel like that's what I have right now. This girl's a beast. But
oh my god. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, okay. So
there are some beasts at that gym. Like some girl bosses, like absolutely girl bossing, like making me look like weak POS, no doubt.
Hey, I know you have some of the best technique though, because I drilled that into your head over the years.
Oh my god, because you had to rework the whole thing. We don't have to go into all the details of why my form was so bad before, but yeah, there was some time where I like really had to build from the ground up again with certain stuff.
Yeah, we all been there.
Yeah, let me tell you about this group that I worked out with today though, because I cannot highly recommend enough if you're in a gym that's a lot more like open of an environment to like take advantage of that, because there are certain movements and like certain times when, I mean, everyone goes through this, where you're just not feeling up to training that day, or you can totally tell yourself to slack because you had hours at work, you came to the gym, like you didn't eat as much before you trained. Like there's just a lot of reasons to tell yourself like, I'm just going to take it easy today. And that's fine. There are certainly times when that's totally understandable. But if you can go in, and if you have a training partner or a group of people in there, like take advantage of that, because every once in a while it's nice to just not feel like you're in your own bubble, and like you're kind of like reveling in your own misery certain days where you're just kind of like, I feel like shit, I'm just gonna allow that to take over my workout. But like today, on a day where I'm like tired, I'm on fall break, so I'm just relaxing, like I just don't want to, I don't have the high motivation, and then I'll just go in at 9 a.m. and there's like 5 or 6 other just absolutely massive units, like just screaming at you to lift. It's like, it's just every once in a while, like it's just needed, like it's just a good way to train. And sometimes you're you can get ahead of yourself, and you can start like pushing weight that maybe isn't the smartest thing to do. But if you only do it ever so often, I feel like it definitely is worth it. And it can help like reinvigorate and like reignite the spark in your
Yeah.
training, because you can see the fun side of it and how it like can build real relationships with people. It's super dope.
100%, man. Yeah, dude. Like, it does make a difference. Even for me, you know, I felt like before I started, this was like the first full week that I started training with this girl, and the training has just been markedly improved. Like, from a technique standpoint, you know, they're picking up little things here and there that you might be missing. From just like an energy standpoint, for me, I kind of feel like I'm taking a leadership role so I can still keep my, you know, practice going of like cueing people, you know, making sure that the workout's flowing well. And then for people that don't have like the necessarily the same outlook as me, you know, just putting yourself in that environment, like you said, of still pushing when you might not feel it 100%. That's a
Mm,
huge thing, where like those little improvements in your session from a day to day will compound into massive improvements on
yeah.
a yearly basis. And you know, I was talking to Ryan, who Brandon's trained with. Ryan, yeah, we already mentioned him. Ryan, this is going to be your your episode as well. So there's you know, right now he's out in LA and he's having a tough time finding a partner. We talked about this maybe even today or yesterday, and I'm like, dude, you just got to try to find it. Like, I feel like you and me, you know, you will go up and talk to literally anyone at the gym. You know, I will talk to pretty much anyone after a time, but talk to them about the one time. I don't even know who this bodybuilder was, but I want to say he was like Egyptian or something, like a IFBB pro that's not spoke a lick of English, and you went up and talked to him.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't even remember like the full like context of what was going on, but I'm pretty sure he's just like in the men's restroom or like the changing area. And I think I knew that it was the week of the Arnold, and I don't even know like what I said to him. I don't have really any recollection of the encounter, but I just remember like being in awe of this guy's just I mean, he was probably the biggest man I've ever seen in my life. And like I know that people that are that big probably get annoyed with that being their whole shtick, where it's like that's all people can talk about. Because I'm sure a lot of tall people feel the same way, where it's like, oh my God, you're so tall. It's like, you know, I'm like a human, right? Like you can acknowledge my existence first before you just mention my glaring like, you know, attribute or whatever. But I just had to go up to him. I think I just asked him like if he was here for the Arnold, if he was like competing or something. I don't know. Maybe you remember more about the
I
interaction
think
than I
that's what
do.
I think that what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was just like, I don't know. I think for the most part, there's like limits, obviously. Like
Yeah.
there's sometimes like there's, especially if you're talking to a different gender, especially like guys talking to girls, like there's a line. Like you have to be
Yeah.
really smart about like how you're gonna approach it, and you can't be a freaking like creep about it. But like most of the time, like dudes are totally cool and excited to talk to you in the gym. So I
Oh
think like
yeah.
if you're willing and like want to make those new connections, I feel like it's super easy to do, especially if you start to see the same people. Like if you're training at the same time each day and there's other people that are like training at the same time as you, like even if you just ask them for a spot or something, like I've made not like crazy close friends, but like just being able to go into the gym and like wave or like smile at someone and just have a small conversation, I feel like can really improve your morale on those days when you're not feeling up to training as much. So
Yeah. And I think that's exactly how I would go about it. Like for someone, like, let's use Ryan's example. Like if you're trying to find a training partner, like asking for a spot of like someone that you think trains well or someone that like you would get along with, and then just like getting that conversation going, which a lot of people just don't and can't do that. Like it's
Mhm.
okay to do. I think, like you said, like especially with dudes, like a lot of guys will talk about the gym or talk about whatever.
Mhm.
Um, that could be a good way to kind of get that group rolling for people that don't have, or maybe you're new to a gym or new to an area, or maybe it's just like you want to get a training group going, but you don't have many friends that work out. Like that can be a good way to get that rolling. So it's like, it's a weird thing to get over at first, but like once you do it, you realize it's fine. I've met some of random people that I still talk to like on a weekly basis, just like
Yeah,
cold approaching them at the gym. So
yeah, yeah, for sure.
on that note, who have been some of your best training partners throughout your life? Like I have a couple that come to mind as like, damn, that was like crazy good training.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan is one of those people without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like his his style of training is whatever you thought your failure was, it's way farther than that. And
You mean
he
his
makes you
style of
feel
training?
where it's just like I don't know, like whatever the definition of like an RPE 7 was for me pre working out with Ryan is totally different now after having worked out with him, because there's just like um I don't know, like he just was basically telling me to stop being a bitch about like training, and that's really nice to have every once in a while, but it was never in a condescending way like you're not training hard. It's more so like, hey, like you have really good opportunities for growth here, like let's actually do this. And he's also the number one hype man, and he can never see it in himself, and it's super infuriating because you could tell the guy that he looks insane and he just won't believe you, which is fine. We've all been there, and we all are probably still there. But holy shit, Ryan, you look like a freaking maniac right now, and I compliment you and you're like, I don't know, I need more width in my upper back.
Yeah, today he said, this was our last text. I just couldn't reply to it. But I will second that Ryan was a really good training partner. Man, like starting out, he was my first client ever, really. And like seeing where he's come has been pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. So this was our last like 6 texts. This was Ryan. I feel like I haven't really grown that much in these past 2 years. I said, dude, you definitely have. He said, I know, but it doesn't seem like much. I was like, yeah, it's always more than you think. He said, I don't know about that. I was like, yeah, you're right. You should just fucking quit. He says, oh, I'm not quitting anytime soon. And I'm aware it's all in my head. Just feel like I've not been moving forward in a while. And I just didn't reply because I'm like, fuck. Um, yeah, man.
Oh man.
Like you said, having someone there that'll tell you like, most of the time, I think it's a fair statement to say, even with someone who is well versed like me, even I it's hard for me to gauge like 2 reps in reserve versus 3 or 1. Like, and not that it really matters. It's not the end of the world, but like we said, those small little things that compound over time can make a huge difference. So I felt dope today because I don't know if you saw my Instagram story where I posted up like a leg press set.
Yeah.
And then Ricky was like, dude, let's go. Like those are the sets that count and that really help you. I was like, bro, coming from your legs, like that's a good
Yeah.
thing to hear. So
Yeah,
um
Ricky is an absolute monster. So any
yes.
compliment from him got you floating probably.
I was like, hell yeah. Yeah, man. Ryan is a good one. We always get good sessions in. I said like, and I think I will do this at some point. Like whenever him and I like prep for a show, I'll just like go out to LA and live with him for like 3 months, and then
Yeah.
and do it. That'd be dope.
Plus, he'll be motivated by the beach too. Like,
The good
no,
weather, get your
yeah.
cardio in outside.
Oh, for sure. Getting your steps in easy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I got a couple more people I could shout out for sure, training partners too.
Some other good training partners that come to mind for you throughout the years.
Yeah. Shout out Nate Waters, my guys, an absolute another unit for sure. I got a lot of friends that are just units. I can't help but use that term. That guy
Okay,
is.
for the record though, you did squat like 405 for like reps last December. So
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not discounting my own strength to a certain extent, but also when you work out with dudes that are like pulling 5, 6 plates like fairly easily, it makes you feel like, okay, I've got a lot of room to still
mm-hmm.
grow, which is great. That's the whole point of training, right? Is that there's not really a limit. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess there is until you start like, shooting Trent or something. But like for the most part, like there's really like that's the whole point of this thing, is that you get to just keep pushing your boundaries and your limits. So that's why I think it's really good to have like those good training partners that help get you through those plateaus, because there's times where you might only be gaining like 5 to 10 pounds on a lift in like 6 to 8 months or even a year. Like you may only get 10 pounds extra on that squat if you're in like year 4 or 5 of training, and like that's okay. That's the whole point. But like Nate, he is like pound for pound one of the strongest people I've met. Like he fluctuates anywhere from like 195 to like 210, and at any given point, like he could probably squat 5 plates. Like if you gave him a few days of like build up to it, like he's insane. And he always, has always been a great partner to like not only compliment you on your things and then like give you good pointers on like your lifts. Like he'll have very like small details on lifts that like are really helpful. And also just like when you have someone that's that strong but like really genuine about wanting to help you out, like it's the perfect combination when you're working out with someone. And
Does he still
then
train
for
at
sure,
Grandview?
yeah, he is. Yeah,
Nice.
I actually saw him today. He's like growing a little goatee right now. Like I don't know, he kind of looks like Pablo Escobar. He's got he's got a little thing going, but I
Do
mean
you
it
still
looks
have
good on
long
him.
hair?
No, he doesn't. He cut
Okay.
it now. So
Okay.
yeah, he took the hair off of his head and patched it on his face now. So, but yeah, he's a great training partner, and then you too. I mean, we haven't ever like consistently gotten to work out with each other just because of like the age gap, and we were never at OSU at the same time, which kind of sucks. But like yeah, you are bang for your buck, like the best guy to work out with because you know so much about like the intricacies of lifting. And I'm not gonna gas you up too much in your own podcast. Like I wouldn't be on here if I didn't highly respect you. And you're like my coach. So I mean I would hope that I trust your opinion on shit. But like
Right.
you know what you're talking about. And so it's really nice to be around someone when you're working out. And I feel like I have a decent understanding of like movements and stuff like that, but there's nuance to things that I just don't know because I've never studied it formally. And so being able to talk that out with someone that understands and researches and you know you do this, like that's your thing. So it's really nice to work out with someone like that. Plus you always like I very specifically know that you're going to push me on like bicep movements because I just really am a bitch about pushing my biceps because frankly, I hate training arms. And that's so bizarre because I think most guys like training biceps the most. And I absolutely hate it because I don't have the attention span for it. So it's nice to just have someone be like, you need to start pushing some fucking weight, or if you're going to go lightweight, you need to start doing reps. Like you need to actually do this shit. So
Let's expound upon that real quick. So last week I was checking over Brandon's numbers for curls, and I think is it like the supinated to pronated superset, right? Is that's in the program right now?
so
It's
that's
been
like
in the
something I
program.
was doing on the cable, but I think you're talking about the preacher curls, if I can
Oh
remember.
yeah. I was seeing it and it was like what, like I think like 45 down to like
Mm,
20 or something,
yeah.
right? Yeah. And I was like, which like isn't bad by any means, but I was like, I feel like he could do more. So I texted Brandon. I was like, what's going on here? Like, why is you know, these numbers? I feel like you could do more. And he's like, oh well, it's just, you know, kind of like a weak point. And I'm like, well, I'm not mad at it because like once again, your biceps are like they got a good peak to them, and it doesn't really matter. But it's just good to have that second eye and like second opinion. So yeah, we'll have to start back on our higher frequency, and then probably doing like a variety of rep ranges is what else came to mind as I was kind of like designing out the program for next week. So yeah,
Cool.
we got some things in the up our sleeve. So as a quick aside, I wasn't trying to shit on you, but I was just like, this is weird, like just
No,
different.
it is bizarre because it is a very specific movement that I just cannot seem to like push heavy on at all. And I don't know what it is because like I'll have like people that I work out with that like I know I'm stronger than, and like I'll get to the preacher curl machine and it's like okay, like I'm just the weakest guy on this movement for some reason. Like it's weird. I don't know if it's like due to like a lack of forearm strength or something at the bottom of the movement, or if I'm just getting a deeper range of motion than other people would on the machine, or
Probably.
maybe there's like something um with the setup. I don't know. There's certainly a few things that could cause that, but I don't know. It's just like a weird specific movement that I always like have struggled with. So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not the end. It's not the end of the world at the end of the day. Like there's many things that could be worse.
yeah,
Okay.
for sure. In the grand scheme of life, absolutely.
Yeah, well, in the gym. Yeah, definitely within the grand scheme of life. As a complete aside, and I know that we said we are going to give Ryan some rest, but do you remember the time when we were all working out and I think we were doing like push-ups? Yeah, you already knew I was going to bring this up. We were all doing push-ups and Ryan, like we were counting them out. I think our goal was what, like 20 or 30 reps or something. And
Yeah.
we were all like you and me were like, yeah, you got like 27. Like, I think our number was either exactly the same or like one off. And Ryan was like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? I was like, no, dude. Like, what do you think you got? Like 20? Like, are you underestimating yourself? No, he's like, dude, I thought I got 39. And we're just like, what the fuck? Like 39? What? Like, we just lost
Yeah.
it, bro. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Oh my God. He's gonna hate us after this episode, but geez.
Oh yeah, no doubt. He's never texting us again. Well, that's also bullshit because he loves us too much. But like, yeah, there's been so many times where we're working out and he's like, yeah, I got 12. I'm like, okay, sure, buddy. Like I'm sure you did.
Another
like,
good reason to have a training partner.
Yeah, no, and then we worked out again after we brought that up, and I know now he was like super self-conscious about it, which was not the goal. It was more so just to be like, but then he was like severely underestimating it. He's like, well, I don't want you guys to call me out. And it's like, no, just count normally. Like no other person isn't able to count to 12. Like, I don't understand.
You know what I think it is like, I think sometimes he does push so hard that like I've pushed so hard. Like today, I couldn't tell you what I got on that set of leg press that I was talking about. Like it was, I'll have to watch the video back because I think it was like 13, but like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like once you get to a certain point, like you get to 10 and you're like, damn, this is really hard. And then you get a couple more and you're like, oh man, I don't even know what it was. Like you just,
exactly.
I have no idea.
And the only reason I feel like it's relevant, it honestly is because if you're like trying to log it, but otherwise, if you can just like be like, I'm just going to train until like, if your week is like, you're on like the 3rd or 4th week of your mesocycle and you're like the RPE 8 range, it's like, okay, if I just train to where I feel like I could only get like 1 or 2 more, it doesn't really matter what the actual reps you got was.
Yeah.
So
that's a whole thing, man. Like, dude, I could do a whole podcast saying it just doesn't matter. Like it just doesn't really matter about your weight. Doesn't matter
anymore.
About
I have more
reps. Like if you're hitting the certain
stuff
bases. That's a good point.
From London that I do. That sounds like the premise of a reel that could go on. That like I have.
Right, dude.
Here's a
and it would be super easy because Mac Miller samples that in one of his songs, so it's like already it's already on Instagram.
So I don't know. I also was just being fairly.
That's a really good idea.
It's not like it is that far. I could drive.
All right, I'm about to go make that right now.
But regardless. Steve,
I was like, any other good training partners that come to mind?
Clearly see there's a washer and dryer behind the desk. Like, what are the odds I could just do my laundry? It's hard not to just. He's like, yeah, that's totally perfect. Actually, if I just throw it in, get your sets in, flip to the dryer, we'll be good to go. And I was like, okay, perfect. I might just do this. Okay, I'll go with.
Bro, I can't imagine
who's actually the gym owner.
Did you come in the back side or the front side of Grandview?
Or I don't know if he owns the gym, but I know he's like the manager. I think Sean owns the gym. I'm not unabashedly. Is that the word?
Yeah.
I think I totally walked in like,
but you know the guy
well was open, wheeling in my laundry, and I was like, I don't know. Yes. Like, what am I gonna shout out, Steve? What else? Because I'm not hiding it. Everyone had to do their laundry. It's not like I'm doing anything. We had to put in multiple service requests to get our pipes filled in. But yeah, shout out Steve. Not only for that, but just being a really awesome training partner. Ridiculous amount, is strong as an ox. And then it took multiple months to get the unit installed. He's they were telling us that he also competed to install in a bodybuilding show. Liability wise, we can install this, and then we'd call the maintenance people, and they'd come over and be like, "We don't. He's not even in his 30s yet. I think he's like so. Anyway, 26 or 27. That was a whole problem for us. 2 months. Yeah, but he was like, I was like, and I'm desperate. Like, he's a great training partner because I basically he's like one of those classic my underwear. We're just coming in and we're fucking going home, boys. Like, because I don't give a shit about what you're. And so I just be like, can you please throw in my underwear? Professional.
You didn't just go to a laundromat.
Certified trainer bullshit guy says this is what we're doing. We're just fucking lifting. And for long-term like recovery and stuff, there's a reason why things are science-based now, like without a doubt. But every once in a while, just being like, you know what, I'm just gonna train. Like it's pretty fun. And it allows things to just, if at any point you hit like a plateau, like it's nice to just come in and release all like autonomy over like my training program and just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna follow you, like I'm your shadow, like I'm your pet dog, like I'm just gonna do whatever you tell me to do. And it's like it's really fun.
Yeah. So Brandon, I know what you should be for Halloween. Be the fucking gimp from Pulp Fiction and have Steve walk you around on a leash and then carry some dumbbells around. Just get a nasty pump until you bust out of that gimp costume.
Oh my God. Yeah, I'm sure Steve would love to do that. I'm sure. No, that would
Throw
be
it out there.
that'd be a great costume. I think one of my housemates and I are gonna dress up as Silk Sonic.
There you go. Hell
So
yeah.
I mean, definitely neither of us look like Anderson .Paak or Bruno Mars because we're about as white can be. But I think it'll be pretty dope.
Yeah, I can see it. Which one are you gonna be?
Fuck if I know. I have no idea. I gotta also figure out where I'm gonna find like those really nice like silk linen like pants and pull. Yeah, I don't know. That'll
I
be a
feel like
fun
you should be
costume.
Anderson .Paak.
Yeah,
You should.
I don't
Fits.
know.
Yeah, dude. Trying to think. I'll list off my three real quick. This is really tough. Starting from the beginning, I think it's got to be Nathan Mays because he was getting ready to play football at Youngstown, and we were just going in there and going hard. My senior year for like 2-3 months, made a ton of progress, most progress I've ever made in my life in one time period like that. The next one would probably be maybe Jack Wilbur because he could always say some shit that would piss me off, and it was just a good time, overall enjoyable time. And then that third
OG, the OG podcast
yeah,
co-host.
yeah, man, yeah, dude, we were tight there for a couple years. I actually texted him today. Today's his birthday.
Oh,
And fun fact, Ryan saw Jack in Italy like 2 weeks ago.
there's no way.
Right.
That's an unbelievable crossover. What are the odds of that?
Right. Right. Pretty wild.
That is crazy.
And then, oh man, that's so tough for the third. I feel like honestly, my training partner right now, Alyssa, might go down as another great training partner. If it can be anything like this past week, it will go down as the best. But
Yeah, that's high praise. That's high praise.
it's been pretty nuts. Let's see. I want to say Ryan was great, but like there was a solid 2 years where I was just really teaching him the basics and like getting him reined
Yeah.
in. And like, dude, I was fucking, he would pick me up every morning. We would drive to the RPAC. He would pay for parking at the RPAC. And I was late like all the time, dude. Like I would just be waking up. I think it was always like, let's meet at like 6 or 6:15. I'd be rolling out at like 6:05, like never crazy late, but just like late enough to piss you off.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so tough. Another great training partner, honestly, like was the 4 a.m. crew with Corey G, because like it was pretty much like what you had at Grandview this past summer, like just going in and balling out. That was a great time. Same thing with Iron Valley Barbell. That was cool. The nice thing about old school though is everyone did the same program for the most part. And that was just good to have like a cohesive unit. So it makes a difference, people. Definitely good talk on training partners. And I want to hit one more topic that we've talked about in the past is kind of like dealing with the ups and downs through fitness, the mental aspect. Very curious to hear where you're at with that, because I have no doubt that's changed since 2020 when we did our original podcast. And yeah, I'm just curious to see and hear what that looks like for you now. I'm curious as to see like what the date and what the episode number was back then.
Yeah, honestly, it's got to be, dude. I feel like that was like in the spring of 2020, if I'm remembering, or maybe like early summer. Like I don't remember it being
51 episodes ago. May 19th is when it was posted.
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah, so since then, oh God, I mean, we've been through a whole freaking pandemic. So that's a nice little fun additive. I'm sure everyone had their own stresses and ways that they were handling that. For me, that I honestly locked in like real hard during the pandemic with my health. Like I got to the leanest I've ever been, just because, you know, some people were like, well, this is a chance to kind of, you know, reset, you know, maybe slack off a little bit, or, you know, everyone was dealing with it in their own ways. So, I mean, I'm not going to like sit here and judge anyone.
Yeah.
But for me, for whatever reason, my like first instinct was, well, this gives me a perfect opportunity to just focus solely on this, which then, you know, it can lead to some bad habits. It led to some really good like personal growth and like really pushing my own boundaries and limits. And that was fun. And then we came back to campus, which would have been 21, and I finally moved in like off campus for the first time. And I felt like it was the perfect time. Like I had been really lean for a while, and I was like, okay, like I want to like put some size on because like I have a ton of room to continue growing. So I spent 5 or 6 months plus like really heavy bulking from then. Um, and then that causes its own set of really tough mental gymnastics to deal with because you're constantly battling between, God, I want to be bigger. Like you get upset when you see guys that are way stronger than you or just way larger than you, especially working out at a gym where there's like lots of legit pros. Like this is their whole life. And the bullshit like thief is like comparison, or like comparison is the thief of joy. And it's totally cliche, but it's true because you're constantly like comparing yourself to other people in person, you're comparing people online, and that's a tough thing to deal with. And so that's something that I was struggling with then, because it's like, okay, now I'm losing, I don't really have any core definition, and I've got like a little bit of love handle action, and I can't appreciate the fact that I'm strong as I've ever been. I'm squatting 4 plates for reps, and I'm deadlifting near 500 pounds at 175, 180 pounds body weight. Like those are nothing, world record breaking, but those are really solid like numbers. And it's hard to appreciate it when you take your shirt off and you feel really uncomfortable in your own skin, and like seeing a number on a scale and like being really thrown off by that. And so that was something that I was really trying to deal with, because I knew in the long term it would pay off. And I'm starting to see the results now where as I'm leaning down, I can really tell I've added size. And no, I didn't add 10 pounds of muscle in, 8 months or whatever, but
Probably
I'm sure
five easily though. Easily five.
yeah, I genuinely,
7.5 maybe.
yeah, like I've definitely added a good amount of muscle mass from that point. And it's really hard to go back and forth between that. But I think that's kind of the whole part of the process if you're taking it as serious as I try to take it, where it's like, you can totally just stay like at maintenance or around there and make good gains over the course of time. But I know, and again, I don't know all the science behind it, but I do know that there's a real specific window that I'm like entering and I've been in for a little bit, and I'm going to be in for not that long of a time, where it's like really important to not waste it just trying to be as lean as possible. So like right now, I have a feeling I'm gonna, stay this lean for a little bit of time and enjoy it. And then I'll probably try to do another like mini bulk and maybe ease my way into it a little more than I did this last time. We made a pretty big jump like right away. Just because I was kind of excited, and I think it like really helped at first, like just jumping into it. And I remember going to your house like one of the first days I was bulking, and like I told you, I was like, dude, I'm so hot right now, and you were
Oh
talking about it being
yeah.
like the effect of the food.
Yeah.
And it was like really interesting, and like, it's super helpful. So yeah, battling that mentally, I mean, I could rant about it for hours because I've I've lived it and I continue to live it, and I think I probably always will. Like there's always going to be like parts of it that are really difficult to handle.
Yeah.
But just making sure you're not like putting all of your personal value on the way that you look in the mirror is like super important.
Yeah.
And that's the pot calling the kettle black, because I do that all the time. And I know that a lot of people that take the fitness industry super serious are doing that all the time. And that's okay, because we're doing this for a reason, right? Because we want to be proud of the progress we're making, and we want to be proud of the way that we look because we spend so much time doing it. And that's great. But like keeping it in perspective and knowing that there are larger moments and larger like issues and things that you can deal with in life, and things that you need to still be able to enjoy, and not solely base your value off of the way that you look and what you're eating and like how often you're training and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to like tackle that from like a mental perspective, and then talk about like practically like how you could structure that and to kind of achieve the goal that you're talking about. And I think, just as a quick aside, like obviously no one here is professional like in any type of like psychology field or psychological field, but played around with this stuff ourselves, and helping other people as well. So I think like for you, like you said, like it's something you're always going to battle. Exactly that. Like when someone has had that drastic weight change that you had, what was it, like 100 pounds in a year or something?
Yeah.
Like,
Almost, it was about 9 months.
yeah, that is never going to leave you. Like the feelings that you had of probably like poor self-confidence and poor body image when you were bigger, and then the exact same feelings on the opposite end of the spectrum, they're never going to go away 100%. That's just, unfortunately, it's just not going to happen. I think like you might be fucking 60 years old and maybe you get there at that point, but maybe not. Like they'll probably
Yeah.
still be lurking around in the very, very dark depths of your brain. So
Right.
I think managing expectations is the best way to go about it. And that's very hard to do. But I think that's where having like trusted people that, have been around, whether it's one like professional therapy or like people that have seen those things happen in the gym and can help you kind of be realistic of where you want to go and help you reframe your mindset to see that your value isn't based on just what you look like and how much you weigh, those type of things. It's very, very important in my mind to have people around you like that. And I'd say if you feel like you don't have anyone around you like that, then that's where probably going to therapy would probably be the best idea for someone in similar situation. Do you have anything to add before we continue on with the mental health aspect of it a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's something that I don't do myself. So like again, it's almost like I'm talking to
No, it's all
myself in a
good.
back
Yeah, yeah.
by giving advice, but I can't recommend enough like going to therapy for people that feel like they're really struggling with it, because there have been times where it's like even beyond just like personal like struggles with like self-doubt in regards to the way that I look, but like struggling to verbalize like the feelings and emotions that you might have that can be somehow like connected to that, and being able to talk to someone that genuinely like literally knows how brains like function and like why those emotions are coming, that's like super valuable to help you put in perspective logically like why you're having those feelings. So I can't highly recommend going to therapy enough, because I did go to therapy for a lot of time in high school, and I remember that being super helpful during times when I was like definitely at my lowest or near my lowest. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's a very like kind of like no shit thing to say, but when you take your fitness in the gym as seriously as you or I might, um, you almost have to like understand that not everyone bases their values around the things that we do, right? Like, you and I might be like, ah, shit, like the abs are getting a little blurry, we're looking a little fluffy, but like, who really cares at the end of the day? Like,
Yeah.
who is actually seeing you with your shirt off?
Right.
Like every girlfriend that I've ever had didn't care. Like it was all in my head. And that's something
Mhm.
that's very, very deep and hard to surmount. But just knowing like, there's a wide, wide world of interests, things to do, hobbies to do out there, and that your body composition isn't the defining factor of your self-worth. That is something that takes a long time, but it's a very, very useful thing to keep in mind. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, I think that probably covers it as I would say on the mental health, just within my scope of thought and in practice. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, I feel good.
Dope. But let's talk about how you could practically kind of like approach what you're talking about, right? So like for your goals, you definitely want to optimize this period of life where, like you said, like the gains are still coming and it's not going to be like this forever. I think the best way to go about it, and this kind of like goes against my original like theory and model, like my original model, which you did programming like this, was like, oh, you can kind of be like a jack of all trades, like do the power building approach, like do the maintenance thing. Like, yeah, like you said, you can make slow gains off of that. But if you're really trying to maximize your progress, regardless of what time of life you're in, especially when you're in like, I'm kind of entering toward the end of it, and then you're kind of like in the heat of it, the
Mhm.
anabolic window of age and testosterone. I still have plenty of years left of that for the record, but like it just the gains different. Like the gains come different when you're like in your early 20s.
Yeah.
Um, I think honestly, like taking a like bulk mini cut approach on the nutrition side. So like you're increasing your calories to a surplus for only like a span, like a moderate kind of surplus, like you said, not going crazy,
Mhm.
for a shorter time, like 6 to 8 weeks. You don't constantly, you just want to extend that and extend that, because that's when stuff gets sloppy. And that's when I think
Mhm.
your habits start to degrade, right? So, like, even this
Yeah.
past year, let's see, I did like a weight loss challenge in 2021, and I was pretty shredded throughout the summer. And then, I got into a relationship in like November of 2021. And that kind of went on until like the summer. I went from like 190s to like 220, 215. And I was going out to eat and like smacking just like ungodly amounts of unhealthy food like once or twice a week, drinking in moderation. And it just kind of compounds to the point where it's hard to pull it back and rein that in when you do it for
Mhm.
so long. And like, not that I regret any of that. I don't think anyone would in that
Right.
context. But I think, if you really approach your surplus, making gains, um, kind of like you're like a thief in the night, right? You go in, you make your progress, and then you can pull back and do a mini cut. It doesn't have to be a crazy deficit, doesn't have to be for crazy long, maybe even for less time than your surplus was. Let's say you're in a surplus 6 to 8 weeks, you pull it back into a slight deficit for 4 to 6 weeks. Um,
Mhm.
and then you can kind of repeat that process, go into maintenance. If you ever want to take some time away from the gym, maybe you're going on like an extended break, extended time of just wanting to enjoy summer, maybe like you can chill at maintenance and maybe only hit the gym like 2, 3 times a week, or just take some time off for like a month, even you'd be fine.
Mhm.
Um, what are your thoughts on that? Have you heard that approach? How do you think that would fit into your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a way better um and stable way of approaching it, um in terms of like habit building, because like you said, when you're in either a super prolonged cut or a super prolonged like surplus, I think both ways you end up like either gaining like really bad habits in terms of like being super strict, or you gain really bad habits of like totally not giving a shit. And there needs to be like a way to balance both of those things, and I think that structure would lend itself and be really like highly conducive to like continuing to have like really good habits both directions, because then you're not going to either extreme um for too long, at least. So like, even if I don't know exactly how the structure of that would look, but like let's say like in the mini cut you're like at a 300 to 500 calorie deficit for only a short period of time, then you're not gonna like build really bad habits with like overutilizing like artificial sweetener, or like being super unwilling to like go out to eat with friends and like not being able to enjoy your life, because you could keep in the back of your head that like, okay, maybe once or twice, your friends are going out and you're not going to drink when everyone else is. But like that's okay, because you know that in a couple weeks like you might be back in that either maintenance or surplus, and you'll feel a little more comfortable and like slipping in a drink or two when you're going out. And then also it helps you realize too, like there are a couple of days where like you can plan for drinking. And I know that you posted like something very similar to that a couple weeks ago, and I think you went to a Purdue game or something. And it's like, if you really want to be strict about like your caloric intake, but like you still want to enjoy your time and like you want to be able to balance both of those, it is possible. It's probably not fun at all. Like I can't imagine that day was very good. I'm sure you're probably really hungry, but like
It
I
wasn't
think you
that
can.
bad, honestly. It really wasn't. Because
Yeah.
when you're
But
drunk,
like,
you're not that hungry until like you
yeah,
start
that
sobering up, and then you get really hungry.
yeah,
And I got
yeah,
to the
that's
point in this cut where like, dude, nothing phased me mentally. Like
right.
that's a
Well,
skill in
plus
itself.
it's yeah, for sure. And then you had a goal too, right? Because you're doing
Yeah.
that photo shoot. Now, like I think that's also part of the reason and justification in your fitness journey is like setting up those goals. And that's another thing that you've posted pretty recently, like even if it's just like small things. And like for you, I'm sure that photo shoot felt like a really big moment, and it it allowed you to keep that focus. And I think that's what this style of like eating would really do, is you could like at the end of each week or at the end of each cycle of what you're doing, like have like certain things that you wanted to improve on. So then it doesn't feel like you're just doing this just to do it. Like you actually like have like a real tangible thing that you're like striving for.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's really well put. And that pretty much perfectly encapsulates the way I felt with it too. So yeah, dude. And I'll say like real quick, we don't really have to expound upon this because I want to be conscious of your time. But like honestly, structuring training the same way where you're like doing, let's say your goal is let's say your goal is powerlifting. Like, of course, 90% of your year's training, not 90, maybe 85, 90, will be like powerlifting specific, where you're running general strength blocks, you're running peaking blocks to display your strength. You're doing that like 1 week where you're completely one rep maxing. But I think rather than like the power building approach that I used to be so big on, I would just completely pull it back. Let's say you need to put some part of the year into hypertrophy, to then you got to have both if you want like optimal results for both hypertrophy and powerlifting. I think you should focus on strength and size for both. So I think rather than trying to do both at the same time, you just run like maybe 2 or 3 times a year. If your goal is powerlifting, you run 2 or 3 blocks of hypertrophy interspersed throughout the year, similar to that mini cut and massing structure. Like you don't do it forever, but it's very beneficial, and it kind of reinvigorates you toward the other one whenever the time does come around. So that's how I would structure it with training as well. And shit, maybe we get into that down the road, maybe months down the road. So definitely, man.
For sure.
It's cool to continuously see each other learning in this shit. And just there's a lot more to do. So maybe another year or 2 down the road, we'll get a part 3. No, I definitely would like to get you on before that, but
when you get to the triple digits, we'll just make it like every 50 or 100 episodes. Then I just like hop back
on. Man, yeah, that's like the crazy thing is like I think about this, and we'll use this as like the closing note, but like I started this like more than 2 years ago now, like 2.5 years ago, basically. And it's crazy to think that we're at like 57 episodes. That's pretty wild. But then there's like people that have been doing every week throughout, like if I were to do every week, that would be what, like 100 and what, 30-ish. So so like, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely trying to get more consistent with it. And that's just kind of like a off note for me, and everyone could probably benefit from some type of consistency in their life. But yeah, dude, I want to be conscious of your time, like I said. And definitely, is there any closing things that you want to leave with the people? Any last minute lessons to drop on them or anything like that?
I don't know. Just take at least everything I've said with a grain of salt. Just because I think a lot of what I speak on personally, because I don't come from a place that I'm, professionally like taught or anything. This is all coming from personal experience. So like adapt what I've said and change it to the way that you need to see it fit. But overall, just enjoy life, enjoy training. And I think that's the best way to enjoy this whole process. So
yeah, good point, dude. And I think it's all been good stuff. But at the end of the day, guys, this shit ain't that serious. You could get great results and still enjoy life. There's times when you got to lock it in. There's times when you can kind of just really be even more lenient than we mentioned and still be fine. So yeah, I feel like that's a good way to close it out, dude. Thanks again for coming on. Thank you all for checking out episode 57. If you're on YouTube, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notification bell for all the updates. And if you're on YouTube, or if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcast, I really appreciate a review. It's been a minute since I've had a review, so someone, for God's sake, please leave me a review. Thank you all once again. Brandon, thanks, dude. Talk to you soon.